We realize that, we put in the efforts, we want our scores to go up, but they kind of, after a while, get stuck. Do you get it right at least 70% of the times? If you work on reading speed, you'll be able to read it fast. If you work on creating a mental overview, you'll start doing a better job of it. That creates the pressure. So his practice was that he would walk on that rope, go in the middle, stand there, and now try to meditate. And that's why I typically ask people to start getting the main idea question right at the beginning. So welcome to the session that I've probably been asked the most about over the last few weeks. Ever since the mocks have started and you've started writing those mocks, you often get back to me and say, "Sir, how can I go ahead and score more marks in VARC? How can I go ahead and get a better percentile in VARC?" And this session will provide you with a roadmap. So see, at the end of the day, when we start our preparation, we want our scores to go ahead and increase in each one of the three sections. Yet, when we try, we realize that, we put in the efforts, we want our scores to go up, but they kind of, after a while, get stuck. The scores get plateaued. You are putting in the efforts, but the scores are not really increasing to an extent that you would have hoped for, and then concern sets in, fear sets in, worry, anxiety, all those things set in. So you wanted to become a top performer. You are also exerting yourself, but the results are not there. So let me tell you how you can go ahead and become the master of the mystic arts of VARC and go on to get a great percentile in this particular section. So what is the deal? The deal is you want your scores to go up, yet they're not going up. So let's go back to the first principle thinking. Let's start with a rather straightforward equation. At the end of the day, can I say that your score is equal to the number of attempts that you have made plus the amount of accuracy that you have gone on to display, gone on to have in the exam? So if you attempt more questions and you get more of them right, your scores will improve. So these are the two broad areas that we need to, as a result, focus on. So here is my take on these two areas one by one with respect to VARC. So the first objective that we have is, well, we want to increase our number of attempts. But the question here is, how do I go on to increase those attempts? How does that really happen? So you can increase attempts by becoming faster, or in other words, by reducing the time that you take to answer every individual question. So pretty straightforward, right? So considering that we want to become faster, become efficient, reduce the time taken, let us start off by taking a stock of where all that time goes during those 40 minutes of our VARC section. Where does that time go? So here is the nitty-gritty. So normally, if I look at our time consumption, you will spend a fair bit of time on reading the passage or reading the paragraph when it comes to verbal ability. Not only that, after the passage, you would also end up reading the question. So considering that a large chunk of our time is spent on reading, one very obvious thing that I would like to recommend here is increase the reading speed. Now, imagine that as of now, you are able to read a passage in, say, 4 minutes. You read it comfortably in 4 minutes. Some of you I know also take 5 minutes, 6 minutes. Now, if you double your reading speed, the time that you spend on reading the passage and the question will be cut down by half. So instead of 4 minutes, you will be able to perform that exact same job in 2 minutes. So, and I'm not even saying triple, because I know over the years I have coached thousands of people, and when I put them on a path of increasing the reading speed, they almost invariably become thrice as fast. But even now, with 120 days ahead of us, around 120 days ahead of us, even if I look at it conservatively, I believe that if you start today, you can double your reading speed. So a couple of concerns that I hear so very often are, is that if I go fast, I'm not able to understand things. So somehow we have this myth, this limiting belief in our mind that when we go fast, we understand less. That is not the case. In fact, look around. Maybe there are these other CAT aspirants that you know. So there are these people who attempt more questions than you do in the VARC section. Now, going by this logic that a faster speed would mean lower comprehension, people who are attempting more questions than you do should have a lower accuracy rate. But look at the data. Talk to them and you will realize that their accuracy rates are similar to yours. In fact, in some cases, the accuracy rates are even better than what you have. So what's happening here? What's happening is that when you consciously read fast, your comprehension goes down. Now, what do I mean by that? There is a speed at which you are comfortable reading today. If you want to go faster than this speed, you will have to constantly ask your eyes, ask your mind to push. Now, your brain cannot multitask because you're asking your eyes to move fast. It will drop the ball on comprehension. But if you persist with this practice, if you continue practicing reading fast every day, after a while, that new speed becomes comfortable for you. Now your brain no longer has to push your eyes to read more. That becomes your new, as I call it, comfort zone speed, and thus you would simply be able to comprehend at that same level. In fact, your level of comprehension also improves. There is a reason behind it. We'll probably talk about it some other day. So how do you go about it? In order to increase your reading speed, you need to practice reading fast every day. So you can pick up the details from our classes, but in short, make sure that you take out at least 15 minutes from your calendar every day. In these 15 minutes, you'd pick up some text, preferably a book. And in case you are a beginner, you're just about starting the preparation, pick up something that deals with fiction, and then read it as fast as you can. For those 15 minutes, the only thing that matters to us is the speed. We're not bothered about comprehension, just push through. It'll be even better if you read a book on your laptop or your desktop, maybe your tablet, not on the phone though, but if you have a laptop, a desktop, read a soft copy, because all our exams are computer based and our speed is also kind of tied to the medium that we use to read. So if you can do that every day, you would notice that by the time CAT comes in, you would have doubled your reading speed, and that will have a significant impact on reducing the time that you spend on reading anything. And this impact is not limited to the English section. See, even when you go to DI, LR, Quant, the first thing that you do is you read the question. You are going to save time at each one of those places. So you spend time on these two things. You can cut it down in half by adopting a plan that helps you increase your reading speed and double it by the CAT. So that's one. Then we spend time on interpreting the question. So for example, you read a passage and then you come across a question, you read it, and now you're thinking, okay, what does this question truly ask for? For example, let me give you a question from CAT 22. So check this. All of the following statements, if false, could be seen as being in accordance with the passage except. So you can sit there and then interpret it, which takes time. But then why don't you save that time? At the end of the day, in reading comprehension, there are basically around 20 different question types. And each one of those different question types can be phrased in a few different ways. For example, I can ask you to identify the inference. But the same thing can be asked in a different way. I can ask you which of the following is true or false on the basis of the passage, which of the following the author is most likely to agree with or least likely to agree with, which of the following has been implied by the author. All of these mean inference. So this is something that you can do at home instead of doing it here. So the moment I see could be seen as being in accordance with the passage. It essentially means that whether it is true as per the passage or not, and then learn to deal with except. So what I typically do is I try to remove except by introducing or removing a not from the rest of the question stem. So how do I do it? The moment I see this, forget the question, I see if false except, I know that false means not true. So except and not get cancelled out. I'll change this all to 1. Now I will read it. One of the following statements, if true, could be seen as being in accordance with the passage. So now I'm looking for an answer choice which is true as per the passage. So you are going to spend time interpreting the question. You'd maybe end up spending half a minute, a minute. I will look at it and I'd be done with it in 6 seconds and I'd move over to my answer choices. So all of these things can be done even before you enter the examination hall, even before you press start on your mock. So make sure that you know all the different question types, you understand them and you know their variations, and you have a technique to deal with except. And in case you still struggle with these, if there is any question type that bothers you, that you're not able to interpret, put it in the chat down below or reach out to me in our group and I would love to help you there. Then what else can we spend time on? We can spend time on deciding whether to attempt that particular question or not. So you interpreted the question, right? You saw a question, you read it, you understand it. Now you're thinking, should I attempt it? Should I not attempt it? Now, what helps you decide whether you want to attempt a question or not? In the mock, in the actual examination hall, the only thing that counts is, are you comfortable with this question? When you attempt this particular question type, do you get it right at least 70% of the times? If yes, then you would want to attempt it. But if that's not the case, why would you really attempt it? So what this requires is a deeper self-awareness that comes from rigorous analysis of your performance in the section tests, in the mocks, in your practice. So you need to know your strengths and your weaknesses. So let me check. When it comes to identify the inference questions of RC, where are you there? Is your accuracy above 70%? If I ask you to strengthen or weaken an argument, do you understand it? And do you consistently get that right? If I give you a main idea question, what's your accuracy rate there? What's your accuracy rate in best summary, para jumbles, para completion, paragraph odd one out? Do you know that all today? So you need to know whether your accuracy in each one of these question types is above 70% or below 70%. If it is above 70%, you'll attempt it. If it is below 70%, you'll skip it. Now, I'm saying you'll skip it in the mock. Of course, outside of the mock, when you go back home, you will pick up one of those areas that you're not strong at yet. You'll exert and become better. But then in the mock, let's go in with a very clear-cut, very uncluttered mind, where I'll attempt only those things that I am reasonably sure of. If I'm not sure of those things, I'll just let it go. And the next call that we take is that, okay, now let's say I decide not to attempt. Done. If I decide to attempt, the call that I need to do is, okay, should I attempt it right now or should I leave it for later? So I know I can do it, but is it a question? So here it becomes a question of whether it is going to take me less time or more time. Is it less time consuming? Is it more time consuming? So once again, it ties with your self-awareness. When you practice at home, you need to develop this awareness of how long it takes you to answer a particular question. So for example, when I solve a parajumble, I spend somewhere between 60 to 90 minutes, right? Now, maybe in your case, you spend 90 seconds to 120 seconds, and 60 seconds to 90 seconds, right? Did I say minutes earlier? I know. Just autocorrect in case I manage to use the wrong unit of time. So know how long a particular question type generally takes you. That will allow you to compare that question type with the other prospective questions and determine whether you want to attempt it right now or later. So if you want to attempt it right now, go ahead, attempt it. If you are choosing to do it later, then you mark it for review and then proceed. And then finally, if you do decide to attempt it right now, you'd think of the approach, how should I go about solving it? And then finally, you'll also execute that approach. So a lot of times we end up using the wrong approach, or we do not have that clarity, and that leads to an issue. For instance, people keep on asking me, sir, in RC, what should I do? Should I read the passage first? Should I read the questions first? Now that's a question related to approach. So my take is that, dude, you are supposed to read the passage first. But then, even when I asked you to read the passage first, are you supposed to read it for detail? Because if you do, and a lot of you do read it for detail, you spend extra time. I asked you to read the passage first, but there is a strict process involved. So in this reading, what are you supposed to do? You are supposed to read it fast, and your purpose in this reading is to create a mental overview of the passage. So maybe you're using the wrong approach, and that is why you end up spending extra time on reading the passage, right? So if you work on reading speed, you'd be able to read it fast. If you work on creating a mental overview, you will start doing a better job of it. And then in this execution, we also talk about elimination. How often do you get stuck between two answer choices? Tell me. Now, whenever you are stuck, do you know how you can become unstuck? So if I give you, let's say, an identify the inference question, what will you do? You'll go ahead and apply a label to all the answer choices: true, false, can't say. If you don't do that, then there is a vagueness in your approach. In case I find no option to be true, two options are can't say, two options are false, what do I do in order to eliminate one of those two answer choices? So I know that I will start looking at the probabilities. I'll start checking which one of these two forms a stronger argument and choose that as my answer. If you don't, then you'd once again be uncertain. You'll end up spending longer. And every second that you spend longer will be something that will take you away from your goal of increasing your attempts. So all of these things can be sorted even before you enter the examination hall. Carry all that knowledge with you. And it's then that you'd be able to save a lot of time. And what was our second objective? Improve your accuracy. So the question here would be, okay, once again, how do I do that? Yeah? How do I ensure that I'm able to get the right answer choice every single time? So let's explore the reasons why we may get a particular answer wrong. So one very obvious reason can be, we are not able to interpret the question correctly. So since you've not interpreted it correctly, you'll obviously struggle. For instance, in one of my sessions that I took on YouTube a couple of weeks ago, I asked people that, okay, here is a question that asks you to identify the correct assumption. What do you mean by an assumption? And the answers that I got from some people were incorrect. They did not know what assumption means. So because they do not know that, how would they get it right? And we've already talked about it a bit on our previous slide too. So I hope by now you get the drift. So you need to interpret the question correctly. Okay, but then you did interpret the question correctly, but you still got it wrong because you may lack the ability required to answer that question. So, in order to answer a question, you need some knowledge, some skill, some technique. So if you don't know that, you may struggle. So there are times when we come across a question and we interpret it. And at that level, we may feel that, oh, now I know what this question stands for. Now I think I can answer it. But when you go on to answer it, you realize that, damn, despite that understanding, the truth is different. So in my mind, I was a boss of that question type. But when I see that in the exam, yeah, that brings in a lot of struggle. So what do you do in that case? So figure out, first and foremost, the ability that is required by that question. For example, in RCs, if you are being asked for the most suitable title of the passage, then what do you need to have in your mind? You need to have a mental overview of the passage. Plus, you need to have an understanding of the role of a title, the job of a title for an article. So when you combine these two things with your elimination approach, you'd start getting it right. But if you're not getting it right, what does it mean? Hey, maybe you're not able to generate the overview of the passage. So in that case, your plan of action is, learn to create a mental overview of the passage. So that's something that we once again talked about and emphasized on in our reading comprehension classes. Maybe you've not rolled out that plan yet, so do roll that out yet. So it's a skill. When you practice on it every day, you'd notice that you'd progressively become better. And this particular skill, by the way, also helps you save a lot of time in passages, even otherwise. How? No matter which question you answer, you refer to the passage for the relevant information. When you have that mental overview of the passage, you are able to refer to the right area faster. So that saves you time, that also makes you more accurate. So this is something that helps you on both of your parameters. And that's why I typically ask people to start getting the main idea question right at the beginning. So that's another factor. So figure out the competencies needed to answer the question, then create a plan that allows you to bring those competencies to your life, to your mind. Then yet another reason can be trying to go faster than what you are capable of. I see this mistake from a lot of people. They just simply want to attempt more, and therefore they go beyond their comfort limit. So imagine there is a question type. When you attempt that question at home, you take 100 seconds. Now what does it mean? This is the time it takes you to get it right. If you reduce this time, you'll start getting this question wrong. So in the exam, I know that there is a clock ticking there. I know you want to attempt more, but then an exam is a place where you simply show your preparation, where you show your caliber, your ability. You do not try to go beyond it. Okay? So once again, between one mock and another, you take actions to increase your caliber, increase your ability. But when you write the mock, that's not the place where you try to overachieve. That is where you stick to the time limits that are comfortable for you. So ignore that ticking clock. And the truth is that even if you leave out 14, 15 questions in the exam, most of the years you'll still get a 99 percentile plus. Okay, so you don't even need to attempt all. Just build strengths and play around them, and you end up surprising yourself. And finally, the last thing that can make people get their questions wrong is they succumb to pressure. So when you are at home, you are at ease, you start getting things right, but when you move to the examination hall, that's where things change. The reality hits you, and pressure is a realistic factor, and that can also force you to make mistakes. So make sure that you create a plan that allows you to deal with the pressure. So that can be anything. That can be practicing mindfulness, practicing meditation, writing a lot of mock tests so that it becomes your second nature, visualization, talking to yourself before the exam, pepping yourself up, whatever works. There are a vast variety of strategies. You do need to roll those out. You remember there is this person called Abhinav Bindra, Olympic gold medalist in shooting. So he wrote his autobiography quite a while ago. And I remember he ended his autobiography by talking about a very unique, very particular practice that he was working on. So he said that he knew that when he is shooting in the Olympic finals, there will be pressure on him, he'll be nervous. So he needed to create a scenario where he's equally nervous, and now he's trying to calm his nerves. Okay, so what did he do? He pitched 2 pegs in the backyard of his house, tied a rope, and then he started learning to walk on that rope. Now, walking on a rope is scary, you can fall down, right? But then that creates the pressure. So his practice was that he would walk on that rope, go in the middle, stand there, and now try to meditate. Now try to calm himself down so that he can mimic that actual scenario. So imagine, those are the lengths that champions go to. They know what to expect, and they know how to, and they create a plan to deal with that. And that's exactly what you need to do if you want to be a champion. So just to now give you a quick recap, we want our scores to go up. For that, we can increase our attempts and we can increase our accuracy. I have given you an overview of both of these things. If you have specific questions, you can always reach out to me later. And I'm very sure that if you go through these 2 things, you are going to be cool as ice in the exam. You'd be able to manage your time effectively, and things will go as per your plan. So for questions, you can drop them in the comments below. You can also reach out to me on this Telegram group. And I would finally leave you with this particular thought. Don't wish for it, work for it. You have been wishing for a great score. That's a great start, bilkul. Nothing wrong with that. But now is the time when we work for that great score by creating a personalized plan that takes care of our specific concerns. Then if you do that, if you roll out the various things that I've talked about today, I am sure nobody and nothing can stop you from getting the score that you truly, truly deserve. All the best, and I'll see you in the next one.